Any agenda modifications from the board at this time? And then we'll move on to the next item, which is public comment on matters that are not on the agenda. So Don, why don't we start with folks, if there are any raised hands online? Like to address the board?
I do have Julie Peterson's with her hand raised. But I do not have anybody else in the waiting room. Julie?
Thank you. I just wanted to take a minute to introduce to the board our finance manager, Chad Yarrick. I understand he is in the galley there in the meeting room, and I wanted to make sure for those that hadn't met him that he was introduced.
Thank you, and he is here. Welcome, Chad. Thank you. Nice to see you, Julie.
Thank you.
Since we're doing introductions, Lisa, do you have an introduction you'd like to make?
Sure, I'm pleased to introduce Rosie Brown. Rosie's joined us as our new permanent clerk of the board, in-house clerk of the board, and is relocating here from Texas. And Don and I have already given her a lot of fun stuff to do. So I'm super excited that Rosie's on our team. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Welcome. Anybody in the audience present that would like to address the board at this time on items not on the agenda?
It's on the agenda, but it's kind of a side comment, I guess. So Jennifer Gavin, I'm the Director of Pharmacy and Respiratory here. I wanted to thank Chairman Friel and Board Member Nunez for coming to our meeting and giving us an update before it went public with everything else. Thank you for considering us and for sending an email to the members as well and the staff. Thank you for your diligence in finding a CEO. But I wanted to do my last thing of embarrassing Matt. And he did a wonderful job, and he has done a very nice job in setting us up to succeed. So thanks to you guys, nice job. And Matt, I still work with you, and I still do all the work you're doing now. And thank you for everything you've done. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jennifer. Anyone else in the audience like to address the board at this time on items that are not on the agenda? John?
No one on.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Don.
Still
You don't
no
have
one in
anything,
waiting room. No,
Okay,
sir.
thank you. Fred, you want to address the board?
Yes, please.
Sure. Please come to the podium so we can kick your voice up on the
I'm just finding out that you've already determined who's going to be the CEO for the hospital. I made a speech before saying that I agreed on the fact that I felt the fact that we should stay with somebody within the community, within the culture of the hospital. But I can see that you've already selected somebody from outside. That is probably credentially good, probably has the experience, has been somewhere else before, and you felt was going to do the job better than Matco would do the job. I would like to say that I have nothing personal to say about the person because I don't know them. I just disagree with the fact that they're going outside situation again. That's my feelings, and that's changed at all whatsoever. So I would like to say is that with the agreement that you have, I hope that there has to set up some kind of a goal on each particular. There should be goals set up for the person, and not just a guarantee of a contract or whatever the case may be in this particular situation. That you're going to get a certain amount of money at a certain amount of time, that there is some kind of goal that you have to attain every particular year. I don't know how long your contract's going to be. But just an open contract, I disagree with that. I think you should have goal settings, and I think we should know about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Fred, if I could address your comments, please. I mentioned last month that the board had chosen an individual, and we were authorized, Marcus and I, to negotiate with that individual. And we did that, and last week it was pretty public information. And the contract that we'll be dealing with tonight has been published since last Friday with all the details that you asked about the salary, goals, how to set them up and so forth. So I would refer you to that information. Thank you. Anybody else in the audience that would like to make a comment to the board? Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. None, is there still nobody online?
No, sir. No one with raised hands.
Okay. Any comments from the board members at this time?
I've got one just appreciation. I know it could be there. unfortunate, but I appreciate all the staff and I heard some great things about the overdose awareness event. Just thank this hospital for taking a leadership role and all the effort it did with that in place. It's really remarkable to hear the feedback from that. Thank the board members who are participating. And two, I'm looking forward to next Thursday's celebration. I can't believe it's already been a year of our acknowledging our 1-year anniversary of being a district government ran district and hospital to provide stability and long-term vision for our community from the hospital's perspective. So it's going to be exciting to have a governance that matches the staff going forward. So I'm just glad we're having this event next Thursday, and I appreciate everybody's efforts.
Thank you. Any other board member comments? Okay, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Any public comments on the consent calendar?
None online.
Anyone in the audience would like to make a comment on the consent calendar? We'll move forward with that.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Nunez and a second by Dr. Cox. Dr. Cox,
Yes.
Dr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Mr. Nunez,
Yes.
Mr. Pimentel,
Yes.
motion passes. Did I
Thank
say,
you.
did I ask for, I did say Chair Frail, didn't I?
Actually, I don't think I did. You did, but I would
Oh,
vote
did I?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay. So we have to move on the minutes of approval from the August 30th minutes. We do have to.
We're on number 3.
And the same with policies and procedures. Okay. And medical executive committee report for September of 2023.
Chair Wheel, Dr. Angel's been delayed in traffic. He's going to be here shortly. We could skip this item until the arrival.
Okay. You can do that and move on to item number 4. This is the Chief Executive Officer Employment Agreement with Stephen Gray and related actions. The recommendations to pass a resolution, number 1, approving the CEO employment agreement to appoint Stephen Gray as the CEO of Ohio Valley Healthcare District and Hospital Corporation, doing business as Watsonville Community Hospital. And number 2, authorizing the board chair to execute the agreement. And number 3, approving the market study findings and confirming the reasonableness of Mr. Gray's compensation package.
Chair Frill, if I could also add to that, law requires that we do provide the material terms of the agreement verbally into the record, so let me do so now. The proposed agreement with Stephen Gray will include a base compensation of $175,000 a year, with the potential for a 35% bonus if Mr. Gray meets specific contractual incentives. That will be defined annually by the hospital board for a total compensation of $641,250. In addition to his base salary and incentive pay, the terms of the agreement will be an expectation that he engage in community development, that the board will support his professional development, a $35,000 signing incentive bonus with $15,000 due no later than 90 days from first day of employment, which would be November 1st, 2023. And then the additional $20,000 paid no later than 90 days following November 1st, 2024, so long as he remains employed. PTO based on an adjusted rate of 11 years of seniority, and a transition leave of 120 hours. That's just leave that can be used for sick or vacation purposes with no cash value. And the final term would be severance in the amount of 12 months of base salary, or the normal, or the number of months remaining in the agreement, whichever is less. And with that, the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any public comment on this topic? Don, anybody online that would like to make a comment?
See nobody's hands raised.
Thank you. Anybody present in the audience that would like to make a comment about this resolution?
Is it appropriate now or after the motion's made for me to wait in?
Probably after the motion is made for discussion. Anybody in the audience not hearing any, so we'll close the public comment on this particular item, and Chair will entertain a motion regarding the resolution.
Yeah, I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Tony.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Time for comment from the board. Dr. Galliani, you indicated you want.
I'd like to thank Chair Friel and Director Pimentel for the many hours of work, many hours of work you put into this on the CEO search committee. However, I find that the analysis that led to this employment agreement is flawed in important ways. First, CEO salaries were inflated in many industries, including healthcare, and I think $475,000 a year is reflective of that. Rather than comparing the salaries of the CEOs at Natividad and Salinas Valley, which are $448,000 and $835,000 respectively, I'd like to make some comparisons to other chief executives. The President of the United States is responsible to 334 million residents in the US, in charge of the executive branch, the armed forces, and a $26 trillion economy. His annual salary is $400,000. The Governor of California is responsible to 39 million residents of California, in charge of a $3.7 trillion economy. His annual salary is $224,000. By comparison, Watsonville Hospital serves a population of roughly 100,000. It has 650 employees, 200 doctors, and an annual expenditures of approximately 150 million. Secondly, while Watsonville Hospital is still working its way out of bankruptcy and every expenditure has gotten intense scrutiny, the analysis has shown that 475 is a salary for comparable size hospital and hospitals with comparable revenue. We are not in a comparable financial situation. In fact, we were recently awarded an $8.3 million loan by the state as a financially distressed hospital. The other aspect of the employment agreement I take issue with is the 12-month severance. If the CEO is paid $475, their severance is $9,100 a week for 52 weeks. At $375,000, their severance is $7,200 a week. Excuse me a second. Currently, California unemployment benefits are capped at $450 a week for an initial period of 26 weeks. I believe 6 months of severance is more than adequate. Considering all this, a salary offer of $375 I think is much more reasonable, and I come to that number by averaging the current salary of the interim CEO, the salary range posted on the job listing, and the salary of the most recent CEO minus the 10% that he voluntarily offered because of the bankruptcy. I think to pay more is fiscally imprudent, and it widens the gap between labor and management. I hope the board rejects this agreement and the ad hoc committee redirects its efforts toward an agreement based on $375,000 annual salary with 6 months of severance. This is certainly enough money to live on comfortably, to raise children, and to save for retirement. 6 months seems to be the statewide standard for unemployment or severance. Thank you.
Other comments from the board? Hearing none, we'll entertain a vote. The chair will entertain a motion regarding this resolution approving the CEO employment agreement to appoint Stephen Gray as CEO of Ohio Valley Healthcare District Corporation doing business as Watsonville Community Hospital.
Yes, I do just think that I don't want to respond to the comments. I appreciate all our board members' thoughts and opinions. So I thank you for your feedback and your own analysis. I think I stand behind our recommendation, and that our conversation is set at not the peers, not the 75% of where our comparable hospitals are, but the median. We're at the halfway mark. So we're already well below where we might want to be as far as compensation if we talk about any of our staff who are probably paid at comparable rates to 75 to 80, 90% of market. So I really appreciate that we're staying very, by comparison, thoughtful about what we can afford. And I do want to talk about the candidate that really stood out to me as having roots and commitments in this community, desire to stay in this community, and his pure desire to work for this hospital, serving this community and be a part of its community and working with staff personally and directly. So really excited about the candidate that we have and recognize the incredible leadership that we have with us right now. And I appreciate your comments earlier that Matt has been a phenomenal leader in this time period. And I'm grateful that he's fortunate to have him here to staff and be part of a greater team that can move us forward at a time when we desperately need to move forward quickly with a lot of initiatives. And just grateful with the outcome. But that's all.
Thank you.
I do have comments, but I want to wait until after the vote.
Okay, so you moved that we accept the resolution, Tony? Okay, so we're still in need of a second?
Well, I second.
You did already there, okay. Hey, Don, would you
Okay.
pull the board, please?
Yes, sir. Dr. Cox,
Yes.
Dr. Gallagher,
No?
Mr. Nunez,
Yes?
Mr. Pimentel,
Yes.
Chair Friel,
Yes.
motion passes.
Hey, Tony, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I just, it's been a long, how long has it been since? April, since April, 4 months. I just want to thank both of you for the incredible amount of work that you guys have done, also with the help of staff throughout this whole process. Andrew isn't here today, but I also, please pass on my, my thank yous to him as well too. I'll send him an email. He did an incredible job of lining up all the interviews, lining up all of the dinners as well too that the ad hoc committee had, just all the interactions they had with all 40 plus candidates, and then getting it down to 8, I'm sure was very difficult. And then getting it down to 4, and then, bringing those 4 candidates before us and before several members of our team at the hospital, and then also the community. It was a lot of work, and I just want to appreciate John and Marcus, your guys' work on this. And I feel like we've made a very good decision here tonight. I feel like this decision is going to continue to move the hospital forward and also the district forward as well too. I do want to obviously give just an incredible amount of kudos to Matt, and Matt just being able to have the check-in before our meetings, being able to text you with little things that here and there, throughout the months when we're not meeting, and to be able to bounce ideas off of you for different things about the direction of the hospital, and you to have an answer or to tell me, I'm not sure about that, let me get back to you, and just be honest and be an incredible leader. I just want to thank you for everything that you've done for the hospital, for the district, and for the community over the last 4 years. And John made a comment that stuck with me throughout the entire interview process, is that the most important thing that this board does is name a CEO, is to get the right person in the right position. And Matt, I just want to make sure that you understand that we have a lot of confidence in you to continue to be a really great member of this team. And there was a lot of discussion had of you being able to learn from Steve. I also think that he can learn from you as well too, about what Watsonville Community Hospital is, about what the Pajaro Valley and Watsonville is, and about what this community really wants to see in its hospital, and wants to see in its healthcare delivery system. And so just thank you for the last 4 years, or for last really 30 years that you've been here, but the last 4 months. You've been awesome. And I just want to, I couldn't move forward without thanking you again. Really, man, I'm looking forward to seeing how much you're going to grow over the next however many years you'll be with us. And I'm excited for all of us as a team to move forward. So thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
So I'd like to make a couple of comments as well. First, I'd like to congratulate Stephen Gray on this appointment, and we welcome you coming on board to work with us and lead us into the future. I'd like to also thank Matt Coe and his team, who stepped up to the plate 4 months ago when we asked if he'd step in and be the interim, knowing that we were going through a lot of transition. So Matt, you did a lot of work, and personally, I think I've shared this with you before. I have really enjoyed working with Matt Coe as president of the board, and helping support each other really during the interim process. And then there were a lot of people involved with the selection process. Jennifer was here, made a comment earlier. There was a whole group of employees and department managers, and there were community representatives that helped us with this selection process. So it wasn't just we five that made this decision. We really expanded this process significantly, and we're glad we did. And we think we got some great feedback to help us move forward with the future. So again, thank you to everybody who participated in this process. Any other comments before we move on? Okay, we'll go to item number 5, which is the Chief Executive Officer report by Matt Coe.
We want to take,
So let's move back to item number 3, which is the Medical Executive Committee report.
Great, thank you, everyone. We'll start with this report, and I have a few comments after the report that are brief. Additional applicants, Dr. Justin Bennett from gastroenterology, Stephanie Campbell, emergency medicine, and Angela Castellanos from pediatric hospitalist. No issue with these files to report. See the appointments on your package. You'll just have you kind of glanced out through the names. If you want me to speak about, please let me know. Nothing specific to call out on these reappointments, other than just very, very minor. Dr. Saladin, her rheumatology privileges. Sorry, it's just an internal medicine privilege, not her rheumatology privileges on this reappointment. Dr. Joey, modification for wound care, specialist for cardiology. And then there were 4 staff modifications. You can read down through Dr. Alexander, Dr. Gaz, and then Mitch, Sullivan, and Forte. Terry's with us in the back there. Terry, anything to add further from that report?
It's pretty straightforward this month.
Temporary privileges for pediatric hospitalists, just for those few weeks there, is Angela Castellanos. And then the Unnecessary Practice Committee was pretty light as well, just a reappointment of 1 certified nurse midwife. So that is the credentials report. Any comments on the credentials report before I move on to brief discussion of GI privileges? Okay, great. So for thank you. Special privileges of gastroenterology, you'll see the fluoroscopy. Just a slight addition to the privilege donation was for fluoroscopy privileges. For procedural sedation privileges, to make sure that's all in the same form for our GI and gastroenterology providers. No questions on those reports. I'll just put on some comments. So, using this form as well to say the same things to Matt. We've done a lot of great work over the past 4 months, despite how much has been on his plate, his team's plate. So we're really excited for our EMR optimization work. So we finally kind of got traction on looking at all of our on-call specialists that are supporting the hospital and figuring out what they need, both in their documentation improvement or just re-education. I think a lot of it is, and how they're using our electronic medical record. Things as simple as making sure all the abilities of all our specialists to prescribe medications through our system and prescribe narcotics appropriately and electronically. So we're calling that EMR optimization. I'm very pleased with that work. We're also doing at the same time, kind of in parallel, consult etiquette and response time. We're working with ER on that to say, all right, who's responding to us, and are there issues? We need to have work with them. And again, it's not a punitive thing. It's just saying how can we all work together to do the right thing and respond at the right time. And we're finding there's just little things that we can tweak that are making a big difference. And so Matt and I are committed to meeting with these folks over the next 6 to 8 weeks. And I think we've had I think 2 to 3 meetings a week, and then just say, what do you need from us? How can we help you do your job more efficiently? What are you missing? Are you having problems with your passwords or your accesses or your remote access? And so my IT department has been great at meeting with the folks that are having the most issues with their remote access and login, and they've made some really great progress. So I really appreciate the leadership there. We've updated student and resident policies. We've got out of my specialty, the difficulty early kids in the ER have been reworked and redone. So thank you, Sherry, for your teamwork on that. And someone got it there.
I was pointing out the team.
Oh yeah, great. Yes, he's out there.
Why is I?
Jen, thanks, Jen. I see you right there. And just two more topics and then I'll move on. It's master transfusion policy and located in the healthcare department, a lot, getting that policy together for the massive transfusion of blood loss policies. And then we're working at, when we say order set, all of these go into the electronic ordering process. And we've really been happy with our work on the variant and early recovery after surgery, which we talked about briefly that order set last month. And then lastly, and this is a huge shout out to Terry in the back, it's for the physicians on staff, you'll notice that all our appointments are electronic. That's huge. That's like coming into this country. We're so excited about that. I can do a reference in 30 seconds on my phone versus 20 minutes by printing it, faxing it, PDFing it, encrypting it. So a lot of my docs are like slowly acknowledging the wins, kind of begrudgingly, like they're kind of surprised that we're noticing these positive changes, but they are noticing them. So I'm excited to see where the next 3 to 6 months go. And thank you, Matt, for continuing to partner and push this work forward. That's a lot, but any comments?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're very proud of the work we've done.
Tracy, for the quality report with the text.
Okay.
Let's move right into that. Next slide, please. From a regulatory perspective, we have our lab joint commission surveys.
Excuse me. Do we need a motion to approve the credentials? Appointments, reappointments? It's a question, really.
We do.
We do.
We can accept the entire bracket.
I move we accept
So
the
that is the
credentials
quality report.
Quality and credentials.
Okay.
as reported.
So we're gonna have to finish the quality report, we'll take them all together.
Good enough.
Okay. Vicky.
Sorry. Our lab survey this year was in in May, and we received our full accreditation in July. So excited to share that news. We did have 2 incidents that were reportable to California Department of Public Health, and those were hospital-acquired pressure injuries in August. Following up with our infection prevention, we had 1 colon deep space surgical site infection and 1 superficial C-section infection. Those are the first surgical site infections we've noted this year, and we will continue to monitor that moving forward. There may have been some clinical documentation opportunities in the colon case that would have prevented that from being considered a surgical site infection, so we will work on that. Next slide, please. Clostridium difficile continues to be a challenge for us. You can see the big spike that we saw earlier this year. This is a measure that is impacting our leapfrog scores, and we've done a lot of performance improvement around that. You'll notice that May, June, July, we had 0. We did have in August 1 hospital-acquired infection on day 7, which was, after a thorough review, rather unavoidable on our behalf. So we are making progress with that. This next slide should generate a lot of pride in the organization in general for the nursing care. We can move forward one. For our catheter-associated urinary tract infections, it's been over 2 years since we've had an incident. And our privacy, it has been a number of months. The last case we had was in January of 2022. In those 2 high-risk areas. Readmissions, we are tracking. Next slide, please. This is our data from HSAG, which, direction, thank you, encompasses our CMS patients, which is a large portion of our patient population, so it's fairly representative of what you cannot see with the little faces over there. Our goal rate is 15.89, and we're currently hitting at 16%, so we are quite close to the target. We have had just a bit of an uptick. There's only 1 data point above the line, so nothing to cause an alarm or a trend at this point, but we will continue to monitor that. Next slide, please. Mortality. We're doing very well in our mortality. We have been for the last 6 months under the targeted rate, and in April we hit exactly at the national goal rate. So we continue to do well in that measure. Next slide, please. Sepsis mortality has been a bit variable. You can see the activity there in the slide, and we will be doing a little bit more work to dive down into some of that. This represents, when you see the spikes, it's cases of 1s and 2s that were driving that. We do have a very small N, meaning our overall population is very small. So when we do have a sepsis-related death, it does have a huge impact on our overall rates. Next slide, please. We do have a very strong sepsis program, as you will see. This is the SCP-1 CMS bundle, and we are averaging year-to-date 80% compliance. National compliance level is around 50%, and state levels are in the mid-60s. So we do outperform many people across the country and in our own state. We are working diligently on that, both in our emergency department and in our inpatient arena, and some very strong work going on in that particular area as well. Next slide, please. Hospital-acquired pressure injuries. These bars that you see are our internal targets for decreasing those injuries. And other than the 2 reportable events we had in August, we've had a very good spring. And we are grateful to not only our wound care center partners, but also we have physician partners now that round on our wound care patients. And that's been very helpful in helping us give optimal wound care and early identification of skin and pressure issues. Next slide, please. Our next slide is inpatient falls. This again, the bars you see represent our internal goals of 25% reduction. The national benchmark is 3.44. Our year-to-date, you will see, is averaging 3.57. However, we have been well under that for June, July, and August. This last quarter, we performed very well on inpatient falls. And shout out to nursing staff for their responsiveness and effective triaging and care for those patients. I will note falls with injuries. We haven't had a fall with a significant injury since 2022, and I believe it was the first quarter of 2022. Next slide. Next slide is reflective of our emergency department, and they are very strong with their volumes of late. For Q2, they were averaging, Q1 of this year, averaging 81.2 visits a day. For Q2, they're up to 95.5. So we continue to grow ED volume. Our left without being seen data, the last couple data points you can't see over on the side, Q1 and Q2, 1.01 and 1.05, significantly less than the national benchmark of 2%. And left without being seen, for those who may not be familiar, is patients that left before they had their initial screening triage, but left before they had a full medical evaluation. So effectively managing the patients and getting them the care they need in a timely manner. Last slide, please. We have a lot going on. Dr. Angel alluded to some of the work we've been doing around clinical informatics and optimizing our medical record. We had a go live of OBIX in our OB mother-baby area to enhance our medical record documentation. Later in October, we were going live with barcode medication administration in the emergency department that will increase our medication safety and also enhance our leapfrog performance. And finally, I believe the date has been amended here, but Periop is looking, I believe, in Q1 of 2020. Oh, that says 12/21. Those are all, sorry, 23. It's not 9 of the year 2013. Sorry, I was abbreviating to a touch there. The Periop go live will be in Q1, and they are working on the bills now, and that will be a huge step forward for us in electronically documenting the care in the perioperative setting, which we have not previously done. We've been very paper focused there, so huge steps forward. And shout out to Fritzy and the managers and directors that are working directly with those teams and our clinician providers to help make this as seamless and I dare say easy. It's not easy at all. It's a heavy lift, but we want to make it as user-friendly as we can for the providers versus and staff alike. So
I would just say, tagging on that, this was the hook that we're using to get all our providers off of paper. So we finally had the energy, the time, and the reason to get there, because before we just didn't quite have the right push behind it. And all these 3 things are helping us get there by the end of the year. That's our goal.
just a teaser, we did get some preliminary leapfrog data. Our numeric score that they gave us is up considerable from where we were last, when we got our grades in the spring. Our fall grade will not come out to the first week of November, but we did perform much better in many areas. And I'm not sure if it's a reflection nationwide. Some of the means from different hospitals around the country have dropped slightly. So that may help us in the way all the numbers play out in the end. So lots of work going into improve our leapfrog as well. Any questions about any of the topics I covered?
Any questions? Thank you for the report. Good work. Okay, Lynn?
Good work.
I'm just excited to see where we're going. I would be very impressed with us.
My notes say that we should ask for public comment here. Don, is there anybody in the online audience that would like to comment?
No, sir, there's no one with raised hands.
Okay, thank you. Anybody in the audience who would like to comment on the medical staff report? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the report.
Yeah, I'll motion to accept.
Thank you, Tony.
I'll second.
Thank you, Dr. Cox. Now, would you hold the board? Now, would you hold the board on the medical staff report acceptance?
So, can you hear me now? Can
There
you
we
hear
go,
me now?
yes.
Okay, Dr. Cox,
Yes.
Dr. Gallagher,
Yes?
Mr. Nunez,
Yes.
Mr. Pimentel,
Yes.
Chair Friel.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. So now we'll move to item number 5, which is the Chief Executive Officer report. Matco.
Thank you, Chair Bill. I want to start off, Marcus mentioned this as well, August 31st, our overdose awareness day that we conducted here on site. Want to thank all those who participated and just, honor those that really contributed to the success of that event. Ashley De Herrera, Nancy Gear, June Ponce, and Jennifer Gavin were all instrumental in making that a successful event for our community. And we hope to be able to do more things like that going forward. We mentioned previously the distressed hospital loan program, the $8.3 million that the state has awarded us. We are still, Julie and her team are still working on getting all of that in place with the hope of getting those funds, access to those funds in the next month or so. Line of credit work, Julie also spoke to earlier, but as you heard, a lot of work continuing there. There's been several times we've had a pivot, and we're hopeful that we can get that resolved, and we will, to Julie's point, we will continue to seek additional guarantors and participants in that line of credit to try to bolster the amount that we have available to us. We've been doing a lot of work with Second Harvest Food Bank in developing our pantry partnership, and the team is currently working on branding and logistics for that. That pantry will be accessible and available to all regardless of income. And it's going to be an exciting program for our hospital and our community. South County Triage Group, we've been participating in that collaborative for quite some time. And the work has been focused recently on just a collective impact, focusing on healthcare and economic mobility. There's over 25 CBOs that are represented. And I feel it's a very important moment for our community and all these CBOs coming together and working towards a common goal. So we've been active in participating in that. We'll continue to do that as well. I've invited the team lead to present at one of our future board meetings. So she will likely be here either in October or November presenting and giving our board an update on the work that's been done and what we're expecting to do in the future. The CNA negotiations, the meetings are still ongoing. Progress has been slow, but we've been meeting as much as CNA is made available to us. So we'll keep working towards the goal of achieving a fair contract to both the healthcare district organization as well as our staff. On the physician recruitment front, I've mentioned this previously, but I wanted to just point out Dr. Kwan, who's our new podiatrist, will be starting on October 1st. Very excited to have her joining our Coastal Health Partners team and making herself available to our hospital team as a consultant for any podiatry cases that may come through the ED or any needs that may arise through our inpatient setting. One thing that I wanted to mention, this was mentioned earlier, Marcus, the October 5th, 1-year anniversary celebration for our organization from 3 to 5. It's going to be at the front of the main hospital here. And we have confirmation from Zoe Lofgren as well as John Laird and Eduardo Montesino that they will be attending barring any type of shutdown. So we're excited to have their participation and attendance and looking forward to celebrating this momentous occasion with all of us here. There's been a lot of hard work from a lot of people to get us to where we are today. So we really want to celebrate that and thank the parties that were involved in making sure we continue to provide healthcare to our community. That concludes my report. Any questions?
Matt, about the Second Harvest food pantry, where are we? Like, what stage are we in with that? And what is it? Do we know what it's going to look like at this point? Or
It's going to be in our former kid shop space that's been vacant for several years at this point. We're still developing the layout, but it's going to be starting as a 0 to 5 program essentially for pregnant moms. And we'll get more information as we get closer. We're still developing it. We want to have the ultimate goal of making it accessible to any of our community patients. But we want to focus on the 0 to 5 population right now, making it available through the salute of the different OB's offices. So moms can come as soon as they start doing their prenatal visits, having access to healthy food options. And developing that along with the food, there's going to be education and a lot of things supporting the family unit and just making the right choices for their kids before they're even born, essentially. So I joke about this, but I'm tired of seeing children that are pushing the obese envelope, carrying around bags of Cheetos and Coca-Cola. So we're hopeful that we can set them on a good path before they're even born.
is that going to come to us for like an approval or for a presentation? Because
It'll come as a presentation.
Okay.
There's no cost to us. It's all going to be through different partnerships in the community. And so from a cost standpoint, there's no cost to us.
Yeah, that'd be great to have them come and present on that. I'd love to hear from Eric and her team.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other comments for Matco? Okay, let's see. No, any public comment on the Chief Executive Officer report? Anybody in the audience like to make a comment about Matco's report? Don, is there anybody online who would like to make a comment about Matco's report?
No, sir, there is not.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, which is the Chief Financial Officer, Financial Performance and Budget Update. Julie?
All right, well, thank you. I'll give you the August state. If we can go to the first slide, please. All right, I wanted to start, show you just from the consolidated entity, hospital and district. We lost money this month compared to budget, and compared to bottom line EBITDA of minus 214,000 before the lease payment. We had actually budgeted this month for 632 favorable, so it was a almost $850,000 swing. We do continue to have the lower volumes. We also had a $1 million bad debt that impacted our net revenue. And much of that is, as we've been speaking about, the deeper analysis that we're doing into how we value accounts receivable and how how we're trying to clean up all the old AR that, you know, in many cases is over 2 years old. We're shifting some processes and moving some things around, and that will stabilize itself, and then we'll kind of get rid of that noise in our financials. You can see that the expenses were favorable to budget by almost 1.2 million, and about half of that favorability was in the salaries. So that's good news that the team is flexing to the lower volumes and, helping us on the expense side. And I really think, besides the lower volumes, most of the reason that we're missing budget is because our initiatives have ramped up slower than we expected. When we did a $30 million initiative budget for 2023, it included a lot of activities, and they take resources and energy and sometimes cash to get them started. And so really what we're seeing here is the delay of the cath lab, lower than anticipated robot volumes, a little longer period of time to implement the group purchasing organization contract change, and the fact that we had it in the fourth quarter, but we're still have to do the sales tax exemption recovery work. Those I think are major contributors to why we are missing the budget that we had projected. Next slide. Here's what it looks like on a 3-month trend. And, you can see that August is a better month than July was. And of course, in July, we had a lot going on as we talked about that whole AR valuation piece and the fact that we had 3 pay periods and we had a lot going on in the labor line item. So things have kind of normalized themselves out in August. The good news that you can see there is that we are on a 3-month upward trajectory with our net revenue. And that is encouraging to me as we kind of resolve this other piece. Really the only standout item that is kind of an unusual expense is we are dealing with some payroll tax penalties from when the hospital first transitioned, and there was some delays in getting the new tax ID number, created delays in paying the payroll tax because you can't pay a payroll tax if you don't have a tax ID number. And I think some missteps by our payroll vendor, ADP, that we are currently challenging them on, but they are, they're not necessarily responding in the way we would like them to in terms of taking responsibility. So we went ahead and made sure we had paid the payroll tax penalty, and this was about 125,000 or 128,000, I think, of the expense that landed in other, in that bottom line, other at $926,000. So that was really the piece that took us outside of our normal operating expense in that line item. Next step, or next slide, please. Here's what things look like on a year-to-date basis. So through the 8 months, we are missing budget by just 144,000. The swing between how the favorable variance on operating expense offsetting the unfavorable variance on net operating revenue is pretty close. We had budgeted a little bit higher on our lease payments. So right now we have a little bit of favorability there, but the fact that we have recently gotten the increased insurance amount for real estate insurance, and that was a 36% increase. That is, I've checked it out, and that's kind of common across the industry with all the major catastrophes like floods and earthquakes and fires. But unfortunately, that is going to add about $50,000 a month to our payment to MPT to cover the insurance for that, for the property insurance. And so that really moves that monthly payment up from about $72,000 to closer to $120,000, $125,000. As I mentioned before, I really do think that the bulk of the of the miss here is the delayed implementation of our various initiatives. Next step, please. Here's what the inpatient stats look like. The inpatient volumes, while they're a little better than I think July was, we still are unfavorable in the admissions and discharges. We were able to bring our length of stay down from where it was in July. Probably the one bright spot in the month was deliveries were very strong. And I'd say, you know, the one reason that surgeries look as far off to budget as they do is because by this point in our budget, we had budgeted some cath lab procedures. So surgeries is probably better to compare it to August of 22, where we're up by 4 for the inpatient surgeries. Next slide. Outpatient really hasn't changed from what we've been seeing month over month. Outpatient visits did recover a little bit this month, the non-ER ones, because they had fallen off a little bit last month. ER visits continue to be strong, not quite as heavy as they were a few months ago when they were closer to 100 per day, but certainly still busy at 90 per day and kind of in line with what Tracy just showed us that happened in Q2. And then the here again, the outpatient surgeries, I typically like to see something closer to 100 or a little over 100, because that would be more comparable to where we were last year. But the 150 budget definitely included more robot and cath lab cases that have not materialized. We are doing robot cases now, but we are not doing as many as we originally anticipated. So the ramp up has been slower, and I kind of estimated that we're shy on the robot cases from where I would have expected us to be year to date, probably by about 80 cases. Next slide. All right, let me stop a second before I jump over to the budget and ask if there was any questions that people had on the monthly financial performance.
No questions. I just want to add a couple comments, and I appreciate the deep dive with the finance committee and all the time and effort and all of our questions. I just wanted to acknowledge that I know you mentioned that some of our initiatives have been delayed, and what's important to just make sure our public knows is they're delayed but close to completion. They're not stalled, they're not paused, they're just, it's taking a little bit longer to get through some of this. So, and I appreciate everybody's efforts to get us there. And I just want to call the attention, I know our increase of insurance payments related to our MPT lease is kind of small increase compared to the size of our property, but it's just another reminder of how important it is for us to control this asset, control our land, control our buildings. It gives us more opportunities to figure out how we insure or self-insure and less reliant on corporations to determine what our costs are. So I just want to call attention to that. It's unfortunate our insurance rates are increasing. It's unfortunate we don't yet own our land or hospital, but I'm eager to get us to a point where we will.
Thank you, Marcus. I think those were all really, really good points. And I think I would just add a little additional to your point about our initiatives aren't, just completely missing. They are all being worked on. The robot has been implemented. There had been, projections based on one physician who ended up leaving the area, but other physicians are being credentialed to pick up some of that volume shortfall. Cath lab, the equipment's on order. Most of the build out is really done pending the equipment being delivered and then finishing up the last construction around equipment. We are having internal conversations about the operational pieces to stand up that cath lab with the required staffing, policies and procedures, operational protocols. The group purchasing organization contract has been implemented, and kind of the official kickoff day is next week of October 1st. So we should start to see some of the savings that new contract brings us. And the sales tax exemption piece, we now have the 501c3 designation. We have kind of gotten paperwork as far as we can get it until we get our certified financial audit, which we had a very lengthy conversation with our auditors today. We are getting close. It is fingers crossed. I will be bringing that audit to the board in October. And I do believe we should be able to do that. And once we have those certified audited financials, we can complete the process to start going after recovering those sales tax exemption dollars and even recovering some retroactively. So they are all very actively moving forward. Okay. All right. Swapping gears a little bit, I want to give you the budget news. I didn't bring a lot of detail. Every month I think, oh, what detail can I bring them? And then I start to look at the level of detail that we're deep and diving into and think it's not really, it's not completely board ready, but it's also probably easier to talk to you at the higher levels about where we're at. Excuse me a second. Just have a little tickle here. A quick sip of water. So as you know, we are developing a department level budget for the very first time in a long time, many years. And so there's been a lot of work and deep dive into the data to be able to create some reports at a departmental level that we can share with our directors and managers, and also analyze to look for opportunities and to determine standards and goals for next year's budget. And we also, in some cases, just learn about the data itself, and what may have been called something is actually something a little bit different. So where we stand today is we have a first blush of a year-end projection developed for FY23 based on August year-to-date financial performance. We're still going through that to validate it and make sure it makes sense. We've created a 2024 base budget, and when I say base, it's not really factoring in initiatives. It hasn't really been scrubbed for reductions or new items, but it is based on looking at volumes that we have projected at the department level and saying, you know, if these are the volumes and we have identified productivity standards and expense per unit of service type standards, we should be able to create a base budget for all the volume driven expenses and the revenue. Then we will look at the fixed expenses, identify items that may need to change. We will layer in the inflationary factors as necessary and get a solid base budget that we can then say, okay, what does that look like? And then carrying forward the existing initiatives that may still need to flow into 2024, plus new initiatives that we identify, we can layer those on to come back with a base or a first pass budget for the full year. It is definitely a goal and something we will be working very hard to try to bring a first pass at the end of October to the next meeting. I don't know until we're a little bit further into it if we will feel that we have fully validated it at the deep level that we want to, but that work will certainly continue if it's not all completed by the time we're preparing for the next board meeting. We hit a major milestone yesterday with our team and our new finance manager, Chad, in terms of delivering some reports to our directors and managers for the very first time. They've definitely been asking for this. We've created some reports for them to see what their expenses look like, to see what their volume projections next year, their productivity activities been like, asking them, for initial, thoughts on it, knowing that they will need some of our assistance to kind of train them on what does this mean? How do I influence it for better results next year? What do I need to do? As well as to ask them for items that need to be, from their perspective, need to be included in the budget, and also anticipating that, they may list more items than we can afford to do, and we'll have to do some rationalization of what we need in order to accomplish accomplish a credible budget and the type of work we need to do to continue to move the organization forward. Any questions on the budget news?
None online.
Okay. Then if we could move to the next slide. Okay, that was my last slide. Remember for sure.
Thank you, Julie.
So Julie, I think we talked about last finance committee meeting, a goal of bringing the budget to the October meeting. I know we still have a couple more months, November, December, before we adopt it, but I think I just want to appreciate all the work you guys are doing in creating entirely new systems for this new governance model, and doing it very thoughtfully and working with departments on giving them data points that they haven't had before, and working collaboratively with them. So I appreciate the approach. It's very thoughtful. I keep saying this, I don't know how you're finding the time, you and your team, but all the work that's coming out is quality work. So I'm grateful you're here. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a great team behind me, and very supportive management and director team. It's actually very exciting to see how much the directors and managers want this data, and have kind of craved my finance reports at our monthly directors meeting.
Thank you, Julie. Any other questions before we move on? Okay. Move on to item number 7, which is Santa Cruz County Bank Business Loan Agreement.
Okay.
Before you forget,
Hold 1 second.
I think both Dr. Cox and myself have to recuse ourselves for the potential conflict of interest.
Got it.
There it is.
Okay, Julie, go ahead and continue.
Okay, so as we discussed in the special district meeting beforehand, the line of credit that we are seeking with Santa Cruz County Bank names both the hospital and the district as co-borrowers. Therefore, I need to bring the same resolution forward to the hospital corporation as I did to the district earlier, asking the board to authorize Matt Coe and myself as those officers authorized to execute and deliver the loan agreement with Santa Cruz County Bank, and approving all the documents, and being able to designate other staff as necessary to perform transactions. And I'll mention, even though we discussed this at the last meeting, we did ask to change the resolution to an up to $5 million, because our lead guarantor has withdrawn from the current structure that we had anticipated signing off on. That was a recent change on Monday. So we are trying to move forward with the 2 remaining guarantors, and also look for additional guarantors to build that back up towards $5 million. But at this point, we feel it's important to at least execute on a $2 million line of credit. And so we would ask the board to approve this authorization.
board will entertain a recommendation. Move forward.
I have no raised hands in, online.
Thank you. Before that, anybody in the audience would like to make a comment on this particular resolution? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public comment period. Again, we'll entertain a motion to pass this resolution as outlined by Julie.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Down, you want to poll the board?
Yes, sir. I have a motion by Mr. Pimentel and a second by Mr. Nunez. I have Dr.
First,
Cox. and-
motion by Nunez, second by Dr. Gallagher.
Oh, see, good thing I mentioned that, huh? You sound a little bit alike. All right. I have motion by, I thought Mr. Pimentel was recused. So you,
Yes.
Mr. Nunez, you made the motion
I did.
and Dr. Gallagher seconded it. Thank you.
Yes,
I'll get it eventually here. Give me a sec. Okay, motion by Mr. Nunez, second by Dr. Gallagher. Dr. Cox and Mr. Pimentel are recused. So then I will ask Dr. Gallagher. your
yes,
vote. Mr. Nunez
Yes.
and Chair Friel.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. So that completes our agenda. We'll move on to the next item, which is adjournment. We are adjourned at 6:07. Thank you, everybody.